And there were a lot of destructive patterns that I had been living with that all of a sudden were slapping me in the face and looking at me every day. And I was like, wait, this is not okay. I don't want this, right? So hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Adapted Life podcast. This is Julie Hasselberger, and this is episode 34. And I'm going to talk today a little bit about caregiving after in the shadow of grief. Like, what does that look like after the person you've been caring for no longer needs you to care for them? So whether they are old enough or someone else is now doing it or they pass away, but especially in the case of that person who you devote your life to passing away, and how that leaves just a whole new reality for you. So for me, as you know, or as you may not know, for 26 years, I was a caregiver. And in a lot of ways, I was a caregiver for a long time, in other ways too. But my life was defined by caregiving because my son was severely disabled. And my days were basically measured in appointments and medications and making sure he got to his not only his doctor's appointments but his therapy appointments, and just watching over everything, making sure he had clean clothes all the time, that his bedding was changed, that the nurses were arranged at the right times, and we had aides coming in. He had supplies and prescriptions. Yeah, it was just a lot of managing all of the different resources that we needed in order to care for him here in the house. And just really staying on a totally like hyper vigilant craziness, right? So my daily life was a rhythm. It was a rhythm, and it was what I was doing and what I did for a long time. And it was a beautiful sacrifice of, what most people my age were doing at the time. And that was fine because I love my son more than anything. My other two children, who I also love more than anything, they are beautiful. They have beautiful lives now. And so there was a lot of caregiving for them also, but they went on to college and employment. In my daughter's case, she went to law school and now she's getting married, and they're both living on their own and doing really well. But when they left, Daniel was still here with me. So this is kind of more in reference to the caregiving of him. Um, I poured my whole self into that, as do many people in my situation, right? We have these children and they're born with a lot of issues that render them unable to live in a normal life, a normal circumstance. So, who's going to play the role of helping them to have a life, that's worthy of what they can experience? Yeah. So when Daniel passed away, there was grief for him, of course, but there was also grief for that whole world, that whole rhythm, the whole self identity, and the things that you do, and you don't even really think about it after a while, especially for 26 years, right? So I wanted to talk about caregiving in the sense of, after the caregiving, right? It is exhausting. It is exhausting, and grief is really traumatic. And the adjustment is even greater when it's not only the person that passes away, but also the life and the rhythm and the things that you did for them, right? So, Yeah, if I wiggle a lot, it's because I need to stretch my neck. I'm trying to. Ever since I had back surgery, I get neck kinks. So if you see me wiggle a lot, it's because I try to be somatic and like just wiggle. Um, what happens when the loss and the the space changes in your life, like when all of a sudden all the time you were spending caregiving is gone, and all this you just collide into all of the things that you've had to sort of kind of focus on but not really, or not look at, or not be that into, because you just didn't have the energy and the strength to do it. So you just all of a sudden are left alone in your house with everything else that existed while you were doing that. And all of a sudden you have this freedom that doesn't feel like freedom. It's um yeah, there's just things that really, I'm trying to think of the right word. It's a freedom that you didn't really expect you would ever have, because you set your brain into this acceptance and your heart into this acceptance of this is the way it's going to be with this life, right? This is how it is. It's difficult, but we're going to do this, right? And then it is different all of a sudden. It's it's a big hole. It's not really freedom. So, one of the things I want to do at this point is something that really has helped me and on my journey over the past few years. Often I will take a pause when I feel that I need to like just be. So I'm going to ask you, if you want to, if you're watching or listening, to just take a pause right now. Um, maybe place a hand on your heart and just kind of take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just notice, if you can, what you're carrying at this moment. Whether it's grief or exhaustion or tenderness or sadness or just calm. Just be with whatever is coming up and give yourself permission to arrive. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to fix anything. And that is such a gift, isn't it? Right? Just an acceptance of this is where I am. What is right now. And I'll share with you what comes up for me is still a feeling of confusion and disorientation. Sometimes I feel like my other life was taken and somebody plopped me into a new one, and I don't know what to do. But I have to figure it out. But it just is. So, moving on a little bit, I hope that helped you guys. I'm learning how to become a guided meditation teacher. I've been doing a lot of reading, studying, and I'm looking for some programs where I can get more education, because I just really love being still and all of the gifts that come when you can be still and let your thoughts be acknowledged and then move along and just be present. It's really, really helpful. Um, so, the double loss. So, there is a double loss that happens. I experienced a double loss when Daniel died. It's a double grief. You lose him, your child, your person, or whoever they were to you, and the love that you have for them, but you also lose and you grieve what gave you structure and meaning and purpose. And I was always hyper vigilant, scanning, on guard. What's going on today? Who's coming in, who's going out, where are we going, what's the schedule? Um, it was always a schedule of when this had to be done or that had to be done, when his baclofen pump needed to be refilled, when he had to go for a follow up for neurology, or, you know, and all of a sudden, when it's gone, I was actually terrified and disoriented because I didn't have structure, meaning, and purpose to my life anymore. When I had structure, meaning, and purpose as a young woman, I had gone to school and gone to graduate school and, worked my career up to an upper level management position. There was structure, meaning, and purpose, even with having children. And my children were, they were in really good preschool, then they went to school. And so there was that structure and meaning and purpose and stability with finances and things like that. So many things are disrupted in the wake of having to become a caregiver for someone whose disabilities are not only devastating, but also astronomically expensive to care for. And you can no longer go to work because your job is just too much for you to manage. So anyway, it was a big emptiness that I felt because I was long past, accepting and feeling like this was okay. And when all of a sudden that was gone, uh, I just had to face the realities of everything else around me, and including other relationships. And so many things had been blurred or just mentally pocketed away because you just blur them out. You can't deal with it. You just have to move on because you need to focus. And so it can act like a veil, caregiving. It hides dysfunction because there's always something else that's more urgent right now, right? There's something really important demanding your attention. He's crying. He needs this. We have to go here. Phones ringing. People are coming and going, right? So I was left with everything that's underneath the veil, right? So the veil was lifted, Daniel was gone, and I sat here in my house feeling like, okay, what do I have left? I have my husband, I have my family, friends. Like, it felt very lonely and it felt very isolating. Um, and there were a lot of destructive patterns that I had been living with that all of a sudden were slapping me in the face and looking at me every day. And I was like, wait, this is not okay. I don't want this, right? So it is facing all of the truths of the what is here now that really kind of put you into another state of grieving, like especially if some of that is really not that great and has caused you some significant trauma. So the ironic freedom, I call it, the ironic freedom is, so yeah, people would always say, "Oh, it's so unfortunate. You can't even go to the store. You guys can't take a vacation. That's so sad." Yada yada yada. So you just accept it. And we would bring Daniel everywhere when he was little, but when he became an adult and was just big and in a wheelchair, and we couldn't lift him anymore without having a lift equipment with us, we just sort of said, some of the freedoms that other people have are not the way that our life is, but we have a life that is okay. We're doing all right. But all of a sudden, when you're no longer a caregiver and you're no longer tethered to your loved one in your house and being, always within earshot, like you have time for yourself. What is that? Right? Um, and all of a sudden, I could just sleep in. I could make appointments to get my hair done or take a ride, go to the grocery store by myself, go to Target for 2 hours. And John was working, and I just could do whatever I wanted all day long. Um, and that freedom was not a good feeling. It was an aching, horrible, empty, lonely feeling. So it's very confusing. Um, I can plan trips now. I can do things. I can schedule a trip to California when the schedule works and fly out to see my daughter. So cool. That's great. Um, but the freedom was born from an absence. And it's not the same thing as having, worked your whole life and then retired and suddenly have this freedom, and it's all so positive because you've planned it and it's just this like light in the distance. Um, this doesn't feel like a light in the distance. This feels like replacement of an absence, replacement of a human being who you loved. So it's really hard to enjoy things the same way. Um, yeah. So, and it makes you feel very confused and very, I don't know what the right word is sometimes because I have some brain issues, but yeah, I think you're getting the gist of this. You become confused because there's a part of you that starts to feel guilty. Well, maybe I really do want to finally take a trip to Ireland, or I don't know, go somewhere where there's stairs and there's things to climb that I could never go to before, Um anyway, I just think it's incredibly profound, this absence that happens, and then you're sitting there going, okay, um, I did all that, but now that is just gone. So it's not like a job loss; it's like a whole life structure loss. It's a big deal, and I'm still really trying to pull my bootstraps up and keep myself moving along towards finding space in the world for me now and finding acceptance in the world where I feel comfortable and part of things again. And right now, I don't feel that. So, one of the things I do a lot, and I don't know if you guys are journalers, but I think journaling is a really powerful way to deal with your feelings and emotions. Um, if you have a journal, one nice thing that you could write down at this point is just to make a note to reflect. And you don't have to. You can just hold it in your heart and think about it. When your caregiving ended, if you were a caregiver, what truths did you come face to face with? You just write down, what truths did I come face to face with, and how can I meet those truths now with honesty and tenderness? And then just take a pen and let your heart and just lead the way. Take a breath. You can stop and write about it if you want. Stop the video, or just think about it, because it's important when you're a caregiver to your child who is disabled. you don't have time to think about the truths and the freedoms and the things that you're not having, really. I mean, you think about it sometimes in frustration, sometimes, like, but when you're on the other side, when you're in what I call the after, and you are looking around like, I don't, I don't know what to do. Or was that always this way? Or were they always doing that to me? Why? Why is this still happening? Was that always that way? Because that's, like things become very evident and clear to you to the point of shock sometimes. Like, no, no, that's not okay. So what truths did you come face to face with? Mine were a lot when Daniel died. A lot of truths in almost every relationship and situation in my life. I didn't expect it all to change. So that's why, like I said, it's very confusing. And then once you lead yourself along through that, you can think about, okay, so what does rebuilding in this aftermath actually look like? Because obviously you got to keep going. And it's more about like rebuilding your identity. And that sounds like a lot of work, right? But your identity goes into everything you do as a caregiver and a mother. You got to rebuild partnerships. And sometimes you're going to recognize that certain partnerships or certain relationships are just not meant to continue in the aftermath. Like there's something inherently irreconcilably broken, and maybe that's your situation. But more than anything, once you recognize what you can build and not build and who you are, you got to rebuild you. You got to rebuild your relationship with yourself. So this is why I talk a lot about going inward and how I feel like I was pulled inward. I feel as if between being an empath and between being very intuitive and spiritual, like the most comfortable I feel is when I'm reflecting inward, trying to like give myself some focus and attention on a soul level, like who am I, kind of, right? And in addition to that, it meant let's see what comes up for me, right? For me, and everybody's different, right? It was creativity and writing and poetry and video making, podcasting, making shells that are in honor of Daniel's life. I do that. He is carried forward with me in my new rebuilding. So it is brand new because I never had to like carry him forward because he was just there. Now he's gone. So it's a new relationship even with him in that way. I walk among the pine trees and pick up pine cones. Why? I don't know. I have a connection. It's a spiritual thing. It's a Julie thing. I don't know. But they remind me that he's not here, but he's still here in here, right? Little by little, my restart has been very slow. There's been some other healing that has floated to the surface after Daniel's death. And it's all part of identifying me and who I am, and what I will tolerate and what I deserve and what I'm worth, and building my self-esteem, dealing with the grief, just kind of redefining the whole shebang. That's what I say. So that is all I want to talk about today and just give you some reflection. So obviously this was geared towards someone else who might have lost someone they were caring for. And I encourage you that I'm here if you want to connect. I'm trying to always build a community, and now that includes people who are like me, who have lost the person they've structured their entire world around, and have had to redefine who they are. And yeah, you can't really understand it sometimes on the other side. It's just impossible when you're in that lifestyle of hypervigilance, and it's actually kept me sort of away from going into my support group that I have for special needs families that I created in 2008 for other families that have the same diagnosis. And we have so many folks in there, and sometimes I just feel like like I'm a foreigner and I can't really relate because I'm in the club of everybody's biggest fear in life is losing their child. So it was mine, and I have lived it, and now I'm over there, and I don't want anybody to fear it more. So I try to be gentle. Um, so I see you. I see the weight that you carry, both before, during, and after this. Um, I honor the silence and the grief that comes along the way. I honor it. I honor you. And just encourage you that there might be some seeds of rediscovering things, your tenderness of becoming, and just very gently stepping towards something that might be new. Um, and I'm going to leave you guys with some words that I wrote here from Rumi. Oh, try not to resist the changes that come your way. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one that might come along? Daniel's love lives in me, and the same is true for your loved one too. Love never ends, and it simply will just change form, and you will too, and we will keep going. And that's it. So keep doing you. I would love to hear what other people are doing on their journey after losing their caregiving roles. Are you traveling more? Are you spending more time with family? Is your relationship different with your partner? Do you have a new partner? Do you have new hobbies? Are you volunteering? Are you working now that you couldn't work before? Anything like that. I'm just fascinated. And, we're all waiting for those truths to come to us in the silence. So that's all for today, folks. And I want to send you a big hug from the Adapted Life and from me. And I will see you next time. Have a great one. Thank you for listening.